Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Sana Makbool with you at PTV World. In today's show, we're going to be taking a look at what is developing in the Iran-Israel situation, and this is very, very integral. Similarly, of course, in the ways that we have seen it develop in the past, the ways that we want this to be addressed by the international community is something very, very essential. And of course, the matter is being taken up at the UN Security Council, and this is essential in terms of the calls for peace and dialogue, but in terms of action, what can and possibly be done with regards to the ways different countries are involved, and of course in the ways that we are looking at the US towards what really will be the decision that Mr. Trump is going to be taking. He has said he's going to take 2 weeks to decide what is really going to happen, whether or not there will be an active intervention by the US in this war, but that of course remains to be seen. Meanwhile, we've seen that missile attacks on both the sides continue for the 8th consecutive day, and this is something very, very serious in terms of the potential escalation that exists in the region, and something that of course Pakistan also needs to be cognizant of as Iran's neighbor, and the fact that our developing situation with the US is a very, very important dynamic, especially with the recent hosting of by Mr. Trump of the Field Marshal Asim Munir. And this is essential also in terms of the possibilities of involvement by spoiler elements, especially those coming in from India, that exist and that really need to be taken care of. So the way that this situation is going to develop and how the dynamic is actually progressing is something that we need to keep a close eye on, and we'll be discussing further in the program today. For this and more, as always, in the studios, I've been joined by senior analyst Farooq Patafi and Raja Faisal, and we've also been joined online by former ambassador Mr. G.R. Baloch, and he's going to be, of course, joining in the discussion and letting us know about what the views exist in terms of how the international community can respond. But Faisal, let me begin with you. We've seen, of course, the UNSC take this up, and we've seen the fight continue for the 8th consecutive day, and this is very, very important because it has the potential to escalate into something very serious and very damaging for regional peace and stability. So in terms of what is going on at the moment and the statements and rhetoric coming in from different countries, what is your opinion in the ways that the diplomatic community is actually going to take action in this regard for peace and dialogue?
Yes, and obviously when we talk about whatever is going on in terms of this matter being taken up by United Nations Security Council, I think one by one all of the countries, they have started realizing that this was actually initiated by Israel, and Iran is just reacting to it, and reciprocation is only from the Iranian side. And if overall we look at the situation, the realization is there that the actual bone of contention is the unresolved matter of Palestine and Gaza, which obviously we have been seeing that it is getting bombed since almost 2 years now, and that is the actual cause of whatever is going on in the Middle East right now. Overall, if we look at how countries are reacting and how the groups of countries, especially if we talk about EU is having a debate on this, what to do about it. And of course, so far the statements which are coming, especially French, they have given their statement in which they have said that this shouldn't escalate at all. And if we talk about President Macron, he has rightly highlighted that this must end now, and both of the countries, Israel and Iran, they must sit together and negotiate peace. If we take the example of Russia is one of the most important countries in terms of being a military muscle and a powerful country. We know that Iran is having a good coalition with Russia, and when it comes to Russian war in Ukraine, of course we have been seeing that support has been provided by Iran to Russia, and today of course the statement is coming from Russia as well that they are standing with Iran, and Iran holds the right to retaliate against Israel, because we shouldn't be forgetting that Israel is the country that actually initiated this time around, and the initial bombing, it has of course given a loss, a huge number of loss in terms of military leadership and the scientists as well of Iran. That is how it got escalated. But for now, of course, countries are of the view that this must end now, and when we talk about the end, that end and resolve is on the table, and it is being expected that the talks would initiate from both sides of the Israel and Iran. And so far, of course, the indications are there that the foreign minister of Iran, he has already been in touch with Steve Witkoff, and they were in touch since the day one. And I think that is quite important. Reason being, Iran is updating about each and everything which is taking place, and they don't want escalation. So far, whatever has happened, I think the United Nations Security Council, whatever the outcome would be, that would be pivotal. That would be used to shape up the notion for rest of the countries as well. If we talk about Pakistan, Pakistan's stance is clear that we don't want any war on our doorstep, and we want all of the problems and the kind of issues which are being faced by both of the countries related to the security, they need to be, of course, fixed on the table. Dialogue is key. If we talk about the Middle Eastern countries, including Saudi Arabia and UAE, Qatar, every country wants the peaceful solution to this problem. So to me, I think it is a positive indication, and things are heading towards the positive direction.
Right, absolutely. And this is very, very essential. I'd also like to welcome in the discussion former Ambassador Mr. G.R. Baloch. Thank you very much, Baloch, for joining us and being a part of the discussion. And I'd like your perspective on when we take a look at platforms such as the UN Security Council, and then we take a look at countries like Israel and what has been happening in Gaza, for example, for so long, and the kind of impunity they enjoy. And then, of course, with the potential that exists in terms of regional instability, given the current scenario between Iran and Israel. How do you take a look at this entire situation, and what really are the channels that exist for effective peace and dialogue to exist in such a situation where a country enjoys so much power and hasn't really been able to be something that nobody has been able to really question in terms of what really is going on and the kind of aggression that has existed? Of course, there is condemnation, but no real action or accountability. And so I want your take on what is the right way to really look at the current situation from this perspective.
Yeah, I think we need to little unwrap the situation as to how it escalated to where it is. See, what happened was that Israel had a monopoly on power in the Middle East, and the entire balance of power, militarily and quite an extent politically and diplomatically, was in favor of Israel. However, the challenger to Israel's preponderance and dominance in the Middle East came in from Iran, who obviously had its own allies in the region. Also, it has a formidable conventional military, and a good know-how of the nuclear technology. And of course, it has a pretty advanced missile program. And we saw that in the aftermath of October 7th, 2023 attack by Hamas on Israel, and the subsequent slaughter of the Palestinians at the hands of the Israeli army, Iran's stance was that this was an operation conducted, conceived, and planned by Hamas, and that Iran had nothing to do with it. But then we saw that Israel attacked Iran's consulate in Damascus on the pretext that there was some official which was helping Hamas or other allies in Palestine. And following that, the first ever active hostility between Iran and Israel started, and then we saw a tit for tat twice of different barrages of missiles from both the sides. So in a way, the myth was broken that Israel and Iran sought to have some kind of a regional deterrence, and that the two would not go into an active war. But after having broken that, I think Israel probably got more ambitious. And then what actually prompted Israel, which is now coming up with several reports that US and Iran started to speak, they started negotiations on the new nuclear deal that now Trump wanted with Iran after having canceled the JCPOA, the one which was signed by Obama and was cancelled by uh, by Trump in his first term, and second term again it was reestablished uh, uh, by the next the president of the U.S. And then so probably they were very near to some kind of arrangement. Israel's prime minister. Netanyahu, he is adventurous, who has been on the scene for the last now 30, 40 years. He has an agenda of war. He has an agenda of dominance. And also he has an agenda of neutralizing all those potential rivals in the Middle East, starting with Iraq, Libya, uh, Syria, and now as per the list that goes on, and we must have seen, I've seen. So I think this is where his aggressiveness came, and he unilaterally, without provocation, attacked Iran. And Iran had no other option but to reply back. So I think we have seen for the last 7 days, there have been enormous human cost, there have been enormous material cost on both the sides. Iran has withstood its grounds despite the loss to its air defenses and other infrastructure. And most of the gruesome was the killing of the whole line of the leadership, military leadership, Iran. So all that said, now the world has realized that this crisis cannot be led to faster, further, because it has not only implications for the bilateral conflict between only Iran and Israel, but it has regional and global implications. Regional in the sense that all other Gulf countries which are dependent on oil, they see that if this escalation further, the conflict escalates, and US, if the US, there's a danger of US being involved, and that is what Trump is trying to provoke, that somehow or the other gets actively American involvement. This crisis, that will be a very tragic thing if it happens, because it would change the dynamics of the war from both the sides, that there will be action and reaction. So I think there are, and also that a new balance of power, regional balance of power, which Israel wants to establish. Imagine a Middle East which is totally dominated by Israel, a Middle East in which there is no other challenger to the Israeli dominance and its diktat. That we have seen the bloodshed in Palestine and the destruction of so many other Arab countries. So regionally, a lot of implications. And of course, we being the very close neighbor of Iran, we have implications of maybe influx of refugees, our porous border, our internal security issues. So, and if, God forbid, if Iran's present government is destabilized and a chaotic situation ensues that happened in Iraq and Libya and Afghanistan and other places, that will be a very, very serious security challenge for Pakistan. And globally, in the sense that there are global actors also involved, Russia, China. So they will not be standing by when a country of 9 crore was melts into thin air. No, it cannot be done. And also that the Middle East, in which they also have a stake, is completely at the mercy of Israel, which we know is a very close ally of another global power. So I think it's a very complex issue. Now, the good thing is that there is a negotiations between the E3 or the European three countries and Iran, and of course the most important is the UN Security Council meeting, which is now is in progress at this moment while we talk. So we are hoping that some way has to be found. There is no option for the world. There's no option for Iran, and there's no option for Israel. I always say that war will never ensure Israel's security. in the long term. So I think Israel, for its own long-term security, must find come onto the table and find a peaceful resolution. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. And Farooq, I want your perspective in on this also, particularly in terms of the way that the U.S. is taking a look at the situation. We have seen some very sharp rhetoric coming in from the President's office previously as well, and he's made it very clear that he's taking 2 weeks to decide what really will be the course of action. But given the kind of statements we've seen previously, and of course the nexus that exists between the U.S. and Israel, what really will be the potential aspect that we need to be taking a look out for in terms of what can be the choices that Mr. Trump is considering at the moment?
Right, Sana, thank you very much for the question. I think that I want to actually start by reminding everybody who is aggressor here, who actually started this war. Iran did not start it, right? It was Benjamin Netanyahu's country, Israel, that actually came forward and started attacking Iran. And in all that, one could see what is happening. During the October 7th crisis, it was clear that people wanted answers. Why did the security lapse take place? And you know, Netanyahu's strategy has been actually to keep kicking the can, you know, down the lane, and that is continuously what is happening. He started with Gaza. After Gaza, he went into Lebanon. After Lebanon, he started attacking Syria, then Yemen, and finally here also. And that actually reminds me of Ta-Nehisi quotes this quote which I mentioned earlier once in this program as well: your oppression will not save you. So this is what Israel has been doing, and now their strategy, particularly amazingly, a country that decides one fine morning to actually invade another, and now they say that they don't have the capacity to destroy the underground facility called Fardo, and because of that they need bunker busters. By the way, they have bunker busters. For example, they used their own indigenous created bunker busters like MPR 500, which is a huge bomb, to destroy most of Gaza. And they used GBU 28 to kill Hassan Nasrullah in Lebanon also. Remember the bunker buster from Operation Desert Storm. So they have that access. So right now, what exactly are they actually demanding? They're asking that America not only enter the fray, but use a low-yield nuclear weapon to destroy a nuclear facility. Imagine the climatic you know, ramifications of such an ask. And then they have this huge you know, capacity. Books have been written on Israeli lobby, and I have actually mentioned that repeatedly. There's a book actually called Israeli Lobby by Professor Mersheimer. If you read that, you know how they operate. Unfortunately, they use only millions of dollars to buy a lot of influence in various important places. So there seems to be a pressure that is building on President Trump to actually join the war, because I think Israel did not realize that there is going to be some pushback. And now Netanyahu seems to be on his last leg, and because of that there is this immense pressure. But thanks to a lot of people, especially in President Trump's own base, I think there has been an incredible pushback. And then, of course, while on one side you have right-wingers, then you have left-wingers. They are also opposing the war. So President Trump has done two things. On one side, he has used or sharpened, as you pointed out, the rhetoric, and he kept on actually talking about Iran not having not being allowed to have nukes, which is his stated position. There isn't any change there. But he has also then, you know, also claimed that now we have the control of, you know, airspace over Iran. So what exactly does he mean? He means weapons, because all the weapons, all the planes that are being used there are essentially American made, right? Compared it to recent India's misadventure. When the weapon systems and the planes were being used, people were not talking about Pakistan. International media kept on focusing on Chinese technology. So he just wanted to brag about that. But then he very cleverly has actually spoken about 2 weeks. Now, in the middle of that duration, and by the way, that it is not set in stone. He can change his mind anytime. But in these 2 weeks, there is this huge opportunity for dialogue. Unfortunately, I think that there is going to be a lot of pressure on everybody, and there will be spoilers who will try to actually derail the process. We still have to wait and see what exactly becomes of it. But then you see also attacks in media on President Trump also, because he is standing his ground. He hasn't budged. He hasn't caved in.
Absolutely. Ambassador Sab, I want your perspective on this, because we've seen that because the fighting is of course continuing and there hasn't really been a ceasefire, there is of course a lot of pressure in terms of Iran coming back to the peace talks, and this is something that was of course scheduled previously to Israel's attack on the country as well. But while this is continuing and while there's no real effort in terms of a ceasefire, can there be a potential dialogue process that can be initiated? Will Iran even consider it? So far, of course, their position is that if Israel stops attacking them, they will reciprocate. But in the current scenario, do you see that happening?
Yeah, I think there is a principal stand that Iran has taken. In fact, it was not very encouraging to see the Iranian foreign minister say that we are here to listen. So I think in public, at least, they feel that unless, and it was their stated position, that unless Israel stops attacking Iran, negotiation will be difficult. But I think there is also another urgency that there have to be talks about a pause. So I think maybe in public, this is the kind of statement that we are hearing. So I think the immediate would be a ceasefire between the two sides. After achieving this ceasefire, then I think the negotiations at various levels will start. And of course, the priority is what kind of relationship Israel and Iran will have it. Will they come back again to what was called as the deterrence between the two countries, or they will continue to have this passive kinetic, semi-active kinetic confrontation? No, I think that will not be sustainable. So I think this time around, it seems to me all the actors, they want sustainable peace in the region. That is to again, although it has never been talked about, unfortunately, what has happened that this war between Iran and Israel has put away the attention from the agony of the Gaza Palestinians and the actually core issue on which the entire thing started off, that is the Palestinian question. So I think what they need to do, we need to do, and I think Pakistan has a role to play as a neutral country, that we need to, while see that the war comes to an immediate end, and this firing, which is killing innocent people, which is destroying civil and military infrastructure in the two countries, and it would further lead to some kind of a regional configuration that will be very, very disastrous for the world peace, and of course the supply chain, because 20% of the world oil passes through the Strait of Hormuz, on which Iran has dominance, and it could disturb that flow of oil, and also the other goods and services, the goods that pass through that strait. So I think the stakes are very, very high. Israel has to be brought in on the table on a reasonable grounds. I was just hearing the Israeli representative on the UN Security Council. They still maintain that belligerent stance towards Iran, towards any possibility of peace. So I think the challenge for the interlocutors and other people who are using their good offices for the mediation is that how to bring Israel down from its objective, which they have now raised to change of regime in there. So I think, and dominance of the region after the after this crisis. So I think a realistic peace structure has to be brought in. A regional architecture of stability and peace has to be thought through. Maybe not, it will not come into operation immediately, but at least a thinking has to be started off. And the first brick has to be brought in, and the first brick obviously is the cessation of hostility between the two belligerents, that is Israel and Iran. And I'm sure Iran has shown that, given because they have not started, they are just on the receiving end. So the person, the country which has started, they have to stop it, and they will be ready and open to any reasonable peace process, peace arrangement, including the future negotiations on their nuclear issue. But I think what is happening, unfortunately, is that there is a now increasing of demands by Israel, because Israel probably is miscalculating again, which it miscalculated the response of Iran. Now again, that perhaps Iran government, the Iran regime, our Iran government is now very, very weak, so they can dictate their terms. Now they are even targeting their missile program. And then they are perhaps adding, which I heard some of their commentators, that perhaps they would even demand that no nuclear, no missiles, and no proxies, according to their demands. So in a way, when you put on the table something which is a non-starter, so there is a lack of sincerity for a peaceful solution. So I have my fears and doubts about the sincerity of the other party, that Israel really wants a peaceful resolution, or it still wants to gamble. I think given for the last 30, 40 years, what we have seen Netanyahu, that for him, every problem had one solution, that is the war and bloodshed. So this bloodshed. So I think the U.S. president, who claims to be a man of peace, who wants to see all the wars come to an end, and that the world together moves around along for the economic development and economic revival. So I think he has to deliver on his words and pressurize Israel to come on terms which are acceptable mutually, and that which can then lead the region to a more sustainable peace, which is acceptable to everyone, and which is equitable, and which is acceptable to the regional actors and regional countries, as well as to the world community at large. Yes, Sana.
Absolutely. Faisal, I want your perspective on this too, given the ways that what the international community at large is really perceiving at the moment in terms of the developing situation. It seems that a lot of effort, of course, when we talk about, unfortunately, the situation in Gaza and the genocide that continues, goes in actually moving and shaping international opinion and making sure everybody gets to see what it is, even though it should be so obvious and so clear what is happening, but it's not, unfortunately. At the same time, when we talk about what is going on in Iran and the way that there is a lot of already established ways in which people view Iran, particularly in the Western world, and now, of course, with the kind of misinformation that is also coming out, how do you think that the international opinion is changing or not, and in the ways that it affects how these countries feel any pressure to make decisions for peace and dialogue?
Yes, and obviously, if we talk about overall the view of the world about how this matter should be dealt with, of course, whole world believes that the peace is the only solution, peace is the only way forward. There are only two countries which are being run by two twin ideologies, I must say. One of them is Hindutva ideology and the other one is Zionism. Both of the countries, Israel and India, I mean, today I was going through Indian media and there was a clear stance India is having, and Indian media is shouting out loud that we must stand with Israel because Israel was standing with us when we were fighting against Pakistan. And this is the way forward. Twin ideologies, Hindutva ideology and Zionists, both of these ideologies, they have one thing common, and that is that they are against Muslims, they are against Islam, and Another uniqueness that they believe in torture, they believe in war, they believe in violence, and they don't believe in peace at all. When it comes to rest of the countries, Middle Eastern countries, Far East, China, Russia, if we talk about South Americas, even North Americas, European countries, all of them, they are seeking a just solution to all of these problems. Overall, if we look at Israel, today's Israel of course is being run by Benny Netanyahu, and Benjamin Netanyahu is known for only one thing. Since the day one, since he has been roaming around in the powerful hubs of the world, the only things he has been highlighting is that somebody is going to attain the atomic or nuclear bomb and they are going to use it against us. Somebody is having weapons of mass destruction and they are going to use against us, so we need to bomb them. They did it with Iraq. He didn't like a Syria that is a stabilized Syria. He got rid of both of them, and we know that the airspace of both of these countries has been used by Israel against Iran. Right at the edge of the borders of Iran, of course, their fighter jets were there and they were bombing it from there with the precision. And this is what their modus operandi is. One by one, all of the countries around Israel, they want troubles there. They want all of these countries to destabilize, so that the only country that persists there, the only unique country that persists there is Israel, and none others has any right to exist. And this would of course broaden their ideology as well, because we know that they claim that the promised land, which is supposed to be Greater Israel, that Greater Israel has been promised to them 3,500 years ago. The way one nincompoop, a psychopath sitting next to us, of course Modi and his associates, they always keep on bragging about that we believe in a Khand Bharat, we believe in a Greater Bharat, and of course Pakistan and Afghanistan and Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, all of these countries, they are actually part of that Akhand Bharat. Same ideologies, same manner, same modus operandi, same hatred towards Muslims. This has been going on, and these two countries, I think when Americans, they listen to Benjamin Netanyahu or they listen to Modi shouting out about terrorism and all of these things, they need to realize one thing. This is what their modus operandi is. They themselves can't fight. That's why they carry on bragging about getting assistance from the Americans. Americans need to be rational about their decisions on ground. Reason being, Netanyahu is the same Netanyahu has been seeking their help to settle his scores in the region. This must end now, and the just solutions should be of course brought out of it. When we of course talk about Pakistan and the recent meetup which our Field Marshal Syed Asim Munir and of course Donald Trump in the meeting, they have highlighted that the actual solutions are in the peaceful talks, and there shouldn't be another destabilized country like Iraq or Syria. Iran must sustain all of the pressures. Iran must stay stabilized. Reason being, Iran, we shouldn't be forgetting that it's one of the largest oil producing countries in the world, and if there is trouble in this country, the whole world would be facing troubles. Even US would be facing troubles. The inflation would be going out of the roofs, and the same petrol which is around $70 per barrel, it would be crossing 130 barrels. What would happen then? The whole world would be facing the problems. And I think at this hour the decisions must be taken with precautions, with cautions, and with the utmost responsibility.
Right. Ambassador Sab, I want your perspective on this too, given the recent very important meeting between the US President and Field Marshal Asim Munir, and the fact that Pakistan, of course, is in a very critical geopolitical position in this recent conflict. I want your take in terms of what Pakistan really needs to be considering at this moment in terms of what can happen.
First of all, I think we should all be very happy and should be thankful again to the God. As they say, nothing succeeds like success. So Allah gave us this success on the front in confronting our, unfortunately, that aggressive neighbor in the east. And that has enhanced Pakistan's strategic status in the world. We have emerged, Pakistan has emerged as a mid power globally and one of the dominant or an important player regionally. And now what is happening is, and Pakistan has to be counted in the evolving new global order that each one of the country knows it. And I think it is something again to be uh, appreciated that US president, who's a very pragmatic person, Mr. Trump, has realized this and has taken this strategic realignment, reset with Pakistan, so that Pakistan's potential as a stabilizer country, a stabilizing force in the most volatile region has to be utilized because our very unique location, being at the confluence of South Asia, Central Asia, and the Middle East, is very, very vital and very important. And by engaging Pakistan, what US, in my assessment, is doing that leveraging that strategic location that Pakistan has, and many kind of other countries might rival at, and also that we have some kind of an institutional uh, memory, institutional experience of dealing with each other. And that goes back to early years of our independence. As we all know that our military relationship has been very, very strong, starting from Baghdad back to Misito, Santo, and then, of course, the recent past, the war on terrorism. And so Pakistan has been engaging positively with US, and there were, of course, the patches which were difficult, which were partly dictated by the dynamics in the global scene, and partly because of the changed priorities in Washington. So it appears to me that now the priorities have changed. There is a reset, and I think what I would not further say how and why it has happened, but what we can do to utilize this opportunity. I would say it's a strategic opportunity for Pakistan. We must leverage it to again compensate for that lost time that we did in the past 4 years or 6 years, the first Trump era, and then again in the Biden era presidency, that we lost a lot of time, a lot of there was a kind of a gap, so that has to be filled in. And I think that there would be three levels of collaboration. One is the bilateral level, which is obviously our priority. That is, again, reinitiation of our military to military cooperation. And of course, the investment that we need in the minerals, in the oil and gas, uh, and of course the building the infrastructure for AI, and now a new field and other emerging technologies, including the cryptocurrency. So that is on the bilateral level, and on the regional level, I think Pakistan and the US have almost, except for the issues in the Middle East, we have this common perspective that this region, being so important, has to be stabilized. It has to be put on a path of sustainable peace. That will probably the one at the global level. I think the new there are indications of a new Cold War. So Pakistan can play that balancing act of being friends to the emerging power China and the existing global power USA. So that a new paradigm of win-win and multilateralism in real sense has to be initiated. So I think
And that
Pakistan
is
must
very, very
capitalize.
essential.
Yes, thank you. Yes,
Thank you very
yes.
much, Ambassador Chia Baloch, for joining us and being a part of the discussion. Yes, Farooq, you want to add something to this?
Right, Sana, first of all, whenever Faisal actually speaks about these things, it seems that everything is made of ideology. Let me disabuse you of all those notions. I think all these politicians, these populist politicians, keep on using religion for their own benefit. Otherwise, it is nothing more than just an excuse. For example, when you talk about Benjamin Netanyahu, he is facing multiple cases of corruption and then accountability of what happened on October 7. So it is in his interest to keep on pushing the buck and keep on, extending the date of that day of accountability. Similarly, when you talk about Narendra Modi, do you honestly think had religion or these so-called ideologies not been used, somebody of the caliber of Narendra Modi could be the head of a country like India, which has 1.45 billion people, many of them very competent, a country that has seen Gandhi, that has seen Nehru, that has seen Indira Gandhi and Manmohan Singh, right? So you have to realize that all this is just politics, and politics very, well, particularly Netanyahu's corruption cases. You just read those stories and you're astounded. What a small, cheapstake this is, the kind of corruption that they have seen. So my humble submission is, while we keep on talking about these ideological abstractions, the fact is that there are corrupt people who are ruling these countries, and that's why we are in this bind. Regarding Iran also, by the way, remember, today Iran could have been in a far superior position. Why is it not? Because it was led astray during the Arab Spring. At that time, they thought that they can actually run with hare and hunt with hounds. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to happen, and now they have alienated a lot of people who could have been their allies. Now it is great time. This war nobody wants, and they can rebuild the consensus among Muslim countries and neighbors so that world can move forward in peace.
Right, and that of course is the hope, and we really, really hope that that's what happens. Thank you, Farooq. Thank you, Faisal, for joining us in the debate as always. That's all that we have time for. We'll now see you Monday.
1.5 minute.